for this last year's draft class. Before we get out of here, we did want to talk about the free agencies coming up. The NFL draft is coming up. We have a lot of holes, a lot of places that we're kind of looking at that we need to fill. And we're trying to ask, where should we fill them? Should we fill them in free agency? Should we fill them in the draft? Do certain places need to be filled? And what does the front office think compared to what we think? So, Will, I'm going to start with you. Free agencies first, then the draft. What do we need to what do you think we need to focus on in free agency versus the draft? And, where do we go from here?
Yeah, so let's start on offense. So I'm going to steal this from you. I'm sorry, but I'm going to. Offensive line. Yeah. I think we need an upgrade here, which may not be what the front office feels like, but I would have to say I don't agree with them. What I don't know is what happened towards the end of the season when the run game stalled. Was it the running backs, which we saw some of that? There were a few times B-Rob slammed into defenders or slammed into our offensive line instead of running around people. So there was a little bit of that. But even Eckler struggled, against the Lions, and stuff. So our running game did struggle. And I don't know, did the offensive line get tired by the end of the season? Were they hurt? So I feel there needs to be some personnel changes in there. I'm not sure what. I think first and foremost, we need to find out, what do they think about Brandon Coleman? Do they feel like he can make an improvement from year one to year two? So this is our left tackle. Or do they feel he's versatile enough where if we can get something better at left tackle, we can slide him over? I feel like we need something. Nick Allegretti, I think, became a pleasant surprise as a signing. Yes. Do I want him starting at left guard next year? I'm not so sure. Could he be, the other thing about it is Sam Cosmi got hurt in the Lions game and he tore his ACL. So he's not going to be available week one. So could Allegretti be that spot starter for almost half a season until Cosmi is ready and we sign a better left guard? I'm not exactly sure. I know we need to get a better backup center. The offensive line fell apart when Biotish went out. So when looking at some players from the tackle perspective, if I were to make a big signing, if this guy were to become available, I would put money towards Ronnie Stanley. He's about 30 years old. I think I'd give him a 3 or 4 year deal. And I feel like you'd be solidifying that blind spot for Jaden Daniels. I don't think that Baltimore is going to let him go. And I'm not sure they want to upgrade at left tackle. I'm not sure they see him as the upgrade at left tackle. I would have some interest in bringing in DJ Humphries as potentially taking over that Cornelius Lucas role. We really don't know what he did in Kansas City this year. He didn't get a whole lot of playing time, coming off his injury. If I were to look in interior, I have an interest in Kansas City guard Trey Smith. He's only 26 years old, so I would give him some money. He's a bigger body out there, and so I think that could help when going up against the guys like Jalen Carter and some of the other big guys that are in our division inside. And then that would allow for you to have, Coleman outside, Smith, Allegretti can take over at right guard until Cosmi's ready, and I think you may have a better lineup there. But there are a couple veterans that I would also consider if they wanted to bring in the mix. One of them would be reuniting. So Kevin Zeitler of Detroit, formerly of the Ravens, so this would be he's a 1-year player for us in that he's going to compete, or maybe start, but, it's just kind of like a 1-year stopgap. I'd be interested in bringing back Brandon Sheriff. I wonder if he would come back with our new regime and stuff. He was healthy in Jacksonville. Yeah. He didn't miss games like he did in DC. And if you're looking at this is a guy to come in and play until Cosmi's ready. Sheriff, go right back into your spot at right guard. We knew you were successful with us. Yeah. The other guy I've liked for a while, his name is Mark Glowinski. When he was a free agent 2 years ago, I really had a lot of interest in one of your podcast buddies, the twins or the brothers, that one's a Steelers fan, one's a Packers fan. Oh, yeah. This was the name that he had said coming out. He's like, you need offensive linemen. This could be – it might have been when Sheriff was moving on, so maybe it was longer than that. But so I wouldn't be opposed to getting someone older with the idea that they'd be part of the rotation mix. Maybe they can battle Allegretti, but I do think we need to make some plays in offensive line, as well as later in the draft. I'd like for us to draft somebody that we can develop.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's so to piggyback on that, that's the draft. I do want us to look into the draft, especially with our fortune of us getting Brandon Coleman. I really love that move. But I like some of those picks. I don't know how I feel about the Brandon Sheriff thing, just because what is it going to cost to get him? But at the same time, it would be good having that guy that we know can be a Pro Bowler, especially we don't know how long Cosme's going to be out. And when he comes back, will he need a little bit of an adjustment period? So yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I too think we need to look at center as well. I've looked maybe a Ryan Kelly from the Colts. He's just
as
over
a starter.
30.
What do you mean?
No, as a backup. No, as a backup. No, as somebody to come in, because Dieter is not it as a backup.
No, he's not.
Yeah, so just somebody that's going to come in and it's where it's not going to, the play will not diminish just because that guy came in. Just to get other people on. I think that is what our biggest need is, as far as when we're looking at our O-line, is depth. And you already know I always joke about having 10, 11, 12 linemen, but depth is huge, because not just depth, but having good depth, having guys on that second team that are just as good as your starters up there, or not just as good, but the fall off isn't that great. Another place that I think we need to look at, and you and I have talked about, is secondary. There's a couple names you and I have talked about. Do we look at Kendall Fuller? Because he, we want to potentially bring him back in-house. And maybe if we're going to go super old, but just kind of have an old presence of Stephon Gilmore. You know what I mean? Just somebody he's older, but he's been around the league. Somebody that you and I have talked about for a while, and came into the league out of Ohio State, Jeff Okudah, got hurt immediately and has been kind of bouncing around the league right now. I mean, if we can get him back to that level, he's a solid corner. I mean, that'd be great at that spot. So this at secondary is somewhere where I think I'd be more focused on potentially, let's see what kind of veterans are out there. Let's see what kind of, because we're not going to get, was it Johnson from Michigan? I can't pair my Michigan guys together.
Will Johnson.
Will Johnson. Yeah. Because we're not going to move. I'm thinking politics. Yes. We're not going to move up to get him. And I don't think he's going to fall down to wherever we're going to be. So I would look into free agency at this spot. I think getting the secondary and getting somebody.
Are you just talking corner, or are you talking safeties as well?
Mainly focused on corner. I like where we are in safety, but again, depth wouldn't hurt. But these main guys that we're just talking about are
corners. Okay.
Definitely want to just get something where we have more veteran, more experienced play out there. We've been young for a long time, and as we've seen them getting Lattimore, Nagahi and some of these other guys that are a little older, let's go ahead and get that and see if we can get guys that have worked together. What other place are you looking at in free agency?
Well, with corner, what I think we need to use free agency to bring in some guys. I think what is most important is we got to find out what is their strategy and role for Mike Sanders still.
Yes.
Because if you've got Sanders still that you're going to plug as your outside corner, then that changes everything that you're looking for in the draft and free agency and who you're looking at.
Right.
But if you were to say, we drafted him to play that Cooper DeJean slot role, we want him to go do that, I would like us to re-sign Noah Ive regardless, whether he's going to be going as a starting slot or he's the backup. That flex ability, I think, is really important. I do not want us to make the same mistake we've made before along the defensive line, where we are paying two starters big money. So here at corner, I would not be targeting anybody that's going to get a big free agent deal, like a Byron Murphy of Minnesota, like a DJ Reed of the Jets, like a Carlton Davis of Detroit, or Charvarius Ward of San Francisco. I wouldn't go after any of these guys that we have to pay that, unless you're cutting Lattimore. I'm not paying two corners big money deals. Right. But what I would do is I would bring in a couple veterans that are going to play, or we're going to offer the opportunity like they did with Mike Davis this past year to say, you come in, you have the ability to win the starting job out there. Now, he sucked and he didn't, but the mentality I liked a lot. And so there's a couple guys that I'm going to mention. Kendall Fuller, I'm all about reuniting it. And I would give him a little bit more money too if it's Kendall Fuller. I'm talking like $6 to $8 million. I don't think is a big deal. I'm not giving someone double-digit money there. But if Kendall Fuller is willing to come back here for $6 or $8 million for the year, yes, sign me up. Put him on the outside if he fits the scheme that they want. I'm intrigued by a guy that came out of Virginia Tech. He was a first-round pick of the Titans. He blew out his knee. He's been rehabbing in his home in Hickory, North Carolina, playing for the Charlotte Panthers. He says he's healthy now, fully healthy. I'd be curious to bring in a Caleb Farley, who, as you know of me, he's a bigger guy. He's got size. If he's got his legs back underneath him, as an idea like this, we're talking cornerback 3, 4, 5. He's 4 or 5 in the depth chart. With the if you have the ability to earn more playing time if you play here, I've always liked the corner Rock Ya-Sin. He was drafted by the Colts. Again, I'm talking corner 4. I'm not talking starter right here, but because I think we need to get a starter in the draft, but it would be someone can they come in here and play while that starter is getting a chance to learn a little bit, kind of like what we did with the Brandon Coleman, Cornelius Lucas. The other one is, and he may cost a little bit more, is Eric Stokes coming from the Green Bay Packers. And I'm out on Jair Alexander, talks of trades and that type of stuff. It's, again, I don't want to spend a lot of money on this if we're already putting money into Lattimore, but definitely corner needs some help. They need some better depth there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then keeping in that level of the Kendall Fullers, the Akudas, like some of those guys, Russell Douglas. He's got a couple years on him, and he's just over 30, and he would, he'd be something within that $6 to $8 million range if we wanted to do that, depending on what he's looking for to move. But I definitely agree with you. What other positions would you think you prioritize in free agency?
Okay, I'm going to go to the other side of the ball. I'm going to go to a position that every fan wants to see improved, and I'm going to go to our next playmaker at wide receiver. All right. So here's the deal. I'm going to take the same philosophy with corners to wide receiver. I'm not paying someone top money if we're already paying Terry. And I do think I want to have some flexibility if we want to extend Terry as well. So I'm not interested in T. Higgins. Okay. I have no interest in Chris Godwin. I have no interest in some of the other guys. But what I'm curious is, would the ability to play with the Jaden Daniels provide an opportunity for a veteran to say, I'll take less money for a chance to win and play with that guy than it ever has in the history for Washington? So, I gave a couple names out in our chat a couple weeks ago that probably are going to price themselves out. I've thought about, what's the rehab for Stephon Diggs, and is he really going to be wanted? More I'm hearing is people may be willing to put some money into him, or maybe he goes back to Houston because they've had some injuries too. But that's kind of what I'm thinking with the Stephon Diggs out there. Like, hey, we'll let you come play. You can take your time, but you'll be with the better receiver. This is a name where this would be a wide receiver. And again, I'm willing to give him $8 or $10 million at the most. I'm not trying to only give it $2 million. This is a guy who's getting towards the tail end of his career. He had a really good start to his career, a really good start. He unfortunately has been banished to Cleveland for the past couple of years. So getting back with another good quarterback, maybe something he'd be interested in. I would love to get Amari Cooper. I loved him a couple years ago, and we almost signed him away from Dallas back under Jay Gruden's time, and Dallas was able to give him – he went back to Dallas because they had a better quarterback, and he chose Dallas instead. The other guy – and this is more of they can play. They've got a little bit of size, a little bit of speed. Would be Darius Slayton of the Giants.
Really?
So he always makes plays against us.
Against us, yes,
he does. And he's shown some abilities. Also, in the last 2 years, he seems to be forgotten there. But he's got some size. He's got some speed. I think he could be a kind of under the radar pickup that. As a wide receiver 3 for us, maybe a wide receiver 2 if we need him, along with somebody in the draft. I'll get to that in a sec. I think he could be a contributor in the same capacity that that Noah Brown was a contributor, that Jamison Crowder was, that type of stuff. If we're looking for some speed, and I think we do, there's a couple names out there that I think would be interested. Tutu Atwell of the Rams, slot guy, really fast. He's not going to get you any possessions, but he's going to be really, really fast. Rondale Moore is someone I've always liked as a slot guy as well. He's Purdue, super productive. I can't believe it hasn't translated into the draft. I also
he played for Cliff in Arizona.
He did. He would know that offense a little bit. I'm a little bit surprised that Elijah Moore hasn't done more with Cleveland, but I kind of feel like he would want. I think he may want more money than what we would be able to give him, or more of an opportunity. But he's intriguing. I do have a couple size guys I want to share with you. And again, this is older in their careers, saying, "All right, well, let me go play with somebody." A Tyler Boyd from Tennessee, he fell off when he left Cincinnati.
He did.
A Mike Williams from Pittsburgh. He caught that one. I think the one pass he caught all season was against us for a touchdown. And then I am interested in Christian Kirk of the Jaguars if he gets released. I would totally be interested in that, as well as I would re-sign Olamide Zaccheaus. Yeah. I would sign Crowder. I would sign Noah Brown. I think Diami's going to get more money elsewhere. Someone's going to give him. They saw the potential. They're going to give him some money. But I would sign these guys to say, you can compete. Crowder spent time, injured throughout the season. So I don't think that's a problem. But along with, I would like to see. I think the draft is a possibility in the first round. I think the draft is a possibility in the fifth round. Or the third round. I think we can go multiple directions how things end in the draft, but I want us to add some components in free agency, but I don't want to spend a lot of money because once again, if you're putting the money towards Terry, I don't think you put that much money into one position slot. You can chime away on what you think about all that. I spoke for a while.
Oh no, I'm good. I honestly love that Rondale Moore pick. That to me, I've been talking about him since since he was back in college and he went to Arizona. I actually love that one. Another guy that you and I have been talking about that's just over 30, but if we play him in a role as a role receiver, just a slot or third or fourth guy, he'll be great. A Tim Patrick. We've seen him thrive year after year in different offenses. He's not going to be the number one, but he's going to be somebody that constantly contributes to your team. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I totally agree on Olamide Zaccheaus. Let's bring him back. He can do it. I love that Van Jefferson pick, James Crowder. I'm with. Who else was I looking at before? I know you're not going to like this pick. But I need my small little white boys at wide receiver. And since Luke didn't do it, Mr. Braxton Berrios. I've been watching him with New York. I've been watching him. I'm telling you, it's my guy, man. I'm telling you.
Doesn't he have a hot wife?
Yes. But because he could play wide receiver, but also he has that special teams element to him. So depending on what happens with Jamison Crowder, he can definitely be good. I've always liked Elijah Moore. Did he come he was at Ole Miss, right?
He was, yes.
And I remember him being legit in college, but then obviously going to the Jets, right?
Jets. He flashed there. I don't know what happened.
And I don't know. It just never panned out. And obviously Cleveland, where careers go to die. I mean, that you've seen what happens there. So I would love to get him. And shoot, if we can keep it at where he's at right now, maybe just pay him a little bit more than that. I think a lot of people are willing to prove themselves, especially out of there. I love your pick of Amari Cooper. I've never thought to bring him in there because I never thought we'd be a destination he'd want to go. But now I have to get that out of my mind that, everybody wants to come here. Frankie Louvu was talking about, all his friends are talking about, what's going to take for us to get to Washington? You know what I mean? So now that we're a destination, you start looking at some of these other guys, and DJ Chark. Darius Slayton, he's always beat us, but I just don't know. I've never really.
You don't have to agree with all mine. That's okay.
What were your thoughts about Robert Woods?
I actually had him on my list too. I just felt I was saying too many names.
Yeah. Robert Woods is somebody that I've always liked. He's somebody has been around the league. He's always been a threat where as long as he can stay healthy, that would be somebody that would come in as perfect for me as a number 2 or as a number 3, number 4, somebody that would be able to take take some of the pressure off of, the number one, the Terry, take pressure off of those guys and open up the defense a little bit. So that's where I would go. Obviously, I sent you guys that post about, I can't remember who was looking it up, but somebody like they were doing little mock things and they were saying, if DeAndre Hopkins was willing to take a pay cut and, only get like $8 million or something like that, he would play in Washington. If he was to go under 10 mil and sign a 1-year flyer with us, I'd absolutely take that. I think he still has a couple good years. I don't know if he's going to be what he was, but I definitely think he has something good. So I would definitely love that. But that's free agency. The draft is definitely where I think there's a bunch of guys in the draft that we can actually realistically look at within the first, second, third rounds. But if we can get a number 2 potentially, or not even a number 2, maybe a number 3, maybe just some guys that can contribute, like the Patricks, like the Rondale Moores, that I think is absolutely a necessity. I think it's imperative that we go pick up a guy like this and for the right price. And I'm very eager to see what they do at this spot, because wide receiver is something we've all said we needed coming out of training camp. And now with all the success we had this year without really having a true number 2, or even really, we got the best out of Ole Zaccheaus. We got the best out of Noah Brown when he was on the field. Diami showed up in the playoffs, but nobody else was consistent outside of McLaren. So if we can get somebody that can just give us some consistency at wide receiver, that the pressure that I would take off of Jaden, I think it would be appreciated from him for sure. But also, I think that opens up the run game. I think that will open up Terry to be more effective. And just imagine if he had teams come in where they're not focused all their attention on him, where they have to focus on him and the other guy. So that's some of the places I'm looking. But this, I want us looking in the draft and free agency. Let's look at both areas so we can really hit this position.
I'm definitely with you on that. I think I can go with a wide receiver with pick number 29 if someone's there. Emeka Ibuka, if Luther Burden, if Matthew Golden's there. Those are going to be weapons. I can go with that. I can wait to the second round. I can wait to the third round. I could wait to the 5th round. You get someone, if he falls that far, like a Kyle Williams, who's a slot guy, speed guy. Like, I'm okay with adding a lot of pieces to this. What we saw our wide receiver room, we had like 7 guys who could catch the ball. That, like you said, there just wasn't consistency. But if there's one thing I think we were missing the most, though, was speed. And we've got a quarterback who can throw it. And so I do think if there was one aspect we needed to get, if it wasn't just quickness, it was going to be someone else out there that can get over the top and put because that's only going to stretch the field to open up Zach Ertz, to open up some of your other guys, and Jaden can hit it. Or if it stretches the field so it's open for Jaden to run the ball, if you really need to, and so I do think we're going to see us upgrade another offensive position, meaning the running back. And so getting someone who is able to stretch the field, I think, would be helpful for that position, just like you said.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What is there any other free positions in free agency that you were looking at, or were you looking more towards the draft for the rest of the stuff, or what else?
I think we need to be upgrading along the defensive line. I think we need some serious upgrades there. I personally want a bigger body. When we're looking at some of the free agents that are edge rushers, like a Khalil Mack, like a Josh Sweat, like some of those guys, like a Dante Fowler. I don't know if I want to pay big money for that. I think we've got a problem setting the edge with our run defense, and I want someone who can do that as well as rush the passer. And I think having someone who's simply a pass rush specialist, it's not going to hurt us, but it's not going to fix the problem that we have in our run game. And so that right there, I think, is a little bit of a concern for me. Yes, okay, the guy is supposed to be getting cut. Nick Bosa, absolutely. I'm looking at that. I'm looking at big money for Nick Bosa. I'm willing to trade my first-round pick and next year's first round and see what else Cleveland may want for Myles Garrett. I'm willing to put in. That is an impact player, absolutely. I also wouldn't mind going cheap and bringing back Preston Smith. as someone who can do a little bit of both. I don't know what happened to him in Pittsburgh this year when he got traded. He really just didn't do much with him, and I would be open for a reunion with him. I also would be curious. It'd be another Dallas guy, but is someone like DeMarcus Lawrence worth looking into? He's had success in this defense. Does he bring something? I'm pretty sure he played all 3 downs too. I don't think he was, if he rotated, that would be when Dorrance Armstrong came in. But I would be curious to look at him. I'm also intrigued by some guys on the interior. If we were to let John Allen go, if we were to move John Allen, I came up with this idea. What if we move him to defensive end? And the idea is we get bigger out there. Someone that 2 players that Adam Peters is pretty familiar with. Javon Hargrave and Javon Kinlaw. Both were in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
Not going to be big stat guys at this point in their careers, but could they be a productive rotational piece for us? Maybe. And then the dude is actually pretty productive in Dallas. Another guy, again, Dan Quinn effect, I can't pronounce this guy's last name. Osa O. Big number 97 from Dallas. If you're going to spend a little bit of money on it, I do think we need to be able to rotate within the draft and free agency, bring in some 1 to 2 new bodies along that defensive line.
Oh yeah, no, I'm right there with you, and I'm looking at some of these guys that potentially were decent in years past, but then also some of these guys are a little older, and like for instance. I'll put out a name, Calais Campbell. Always been a fan of him. Now I know he's 38. He's if he even plays another year, but with some of these older guys, just give me one. Just give me 1 year where you can help teach and then also just play that part. And if he's maybe on a defense that's doing well, okay, let's go with it. From the Giants, Azeez Ojulari. This is a guy that I wanted coming out of the draft. 4 years ago. Weren't able to get. He's done some things in New York, but nothing major. I would love to bring him in house and get him on a small deal. Like I would love to sit there and do that. Who else was I looking at?
I love that pick, by the way, Ojulari. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. I too am like you with the big name. This is the place where I would unstrap the wallet, open that bad boy up, and let's really go to, if we're going to go a Khalil Mack. I've always loved Khalil Mack out of Buffalo. So, yes, that would be high, but at the same time, if we're getting what we paid for, it'll be well worth it. Bosa is another one like that. I've always loved Matthew Judon. I've been a fan of his when he, as he's played a lot of different. I think he was at New England before last year. Then he went to the Falcons. He's always been somebody that I've kind of followed around as somebody that's always been out of touch because he's going to decent teams or he's going where he can have an impact. I think he could come here and have an impact. Love the 2 that you picked, Preston Smith, DeMarcus Lawrence, anybody from Dallas. Okay, that's played under Quinn. I'd be okay with. Okay, you hear that, Micah? Come on over. All right.
$40 million.
I know exactly. That's where I'm like, But let me ask you this: would you, if for the right price and under the right tutelage, would you bring back Chase Young?
I wanted to talk to you about that. No. Because he's just a pass rush specialist at this point. Yep. And we need somebody to set the edge. And I'll take that back. I mean, we would have to be drafting someone like Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M as a defensive lineman who doesn't have to rush the passer. And if Chase comes in that Dante Fowler role, sure. If he's not going to cost a lot of money, sure. But I'm not bringing Chase Young back to say you are starting defensive end and we've solved our defensive line problems. So let me answer it that way.
Oh yeah, and that's it. I will bring him back under certain stipulations. Okay, number one, it has to be in a team-friendly deal. It has to be on our payroll the way we want it. And number two, you need to forget everything you learned prior to coming into the league and in that time you had in Washington, and you need to totally fall in line. It's that simple. because this is not about the player. This is about the team. So if you're willing to do that, you've seen how once we moved on from you've hopped around. Mind you, with San Francisco, you got to a Super Bowl, so you were able to taste some of that success. But still, you see how dedicated they were to you. They shipped you out to the Saints. You know what I mean? Or you were able to let you go. You were able to go. Right. So if you're coming here, I need you to be wanting to, earn this spot in Washington. So for me, no, I would bring him back under probation, like probationary period, honestly, because I think they've moved on from him, and I don't think it's easy. You don't go back to the X. Let's just say that.
Yes.
You don't go back to the X. You leave it alone.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think it's happening. No. So I've got another position that I'm going to let you start off with first. What are we going to do at linebacker?
Honestly, at linebackers, this is a place where I want to look in the draft. I want to look for a younger guy, somebody that we can bring in house, maybe to learn a little bit from the veterans that we have. Now,
Bobby Wagner's a free agent.
No, that's a prerequisite. I already thought we'd resign. I already thought we were going to resign him.
Oh, no, I don't know.
Yeah. No, my whole plan works with Wagner and Lou.
Okay.
There. I need them teaching the younger guys. No.
That makes me okay. Thank you. That makes a little bit more sense. When you're like, I'm going in the draft. I'm like,
no. This is with us already pre-signing Bobby and making sure he's still there, because I want the younger guy to learn from him. My whole plan is surrounded by us re-signing Bobby Wagner and keeping him here for at least a year, if not 2 or 3, and then bringing in somebody on a cheap deal that can just be a sponge and learn from him.
Yeah,
that's where I'm focused. I don't even want to look as into what other linebackers are free agency or any of that. My main focus going into this offseason is re-signing him, re-signing Eckler, getting all these guys locked in. You know what I mean? Making sure they're all still here for another year or more. So yeah, where were you? Were you still going to go? I mean, obviously re-sign him, but
I'm still interested in Bobby Wagner. Absolutely. I'm with you where, my gosh, if you can get in this, this is what you were alluding to, a guy like Peyton Wilson or Nakobe Dean. There's always a middle linebacker that falls in the draft that would be a great signing where we're basically stashing you. I'm really interested to see what they think of McGee and Hampton and how they fit on next year's roster. But along with Wagner, if you're going to spend money, if you're not able to get someone along the defensive line, I love Nick Bolton of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if it's too redundant between Wagner, Bolton, and Luvu. I think you'd essentially have 2 middle linebackers out there, but I just see him thumping people in the run game all over the place. I did read a little bit where Luvu may have had to do a little bit more pass rushing than they anticipated. And so he could be helpful in the run game next year a little bit, but yeah, Bolton is just, to me, he's a stud. And so if, I would almost consider, if you can get Bolton, do you re-sign Wagner? If you can get Bolton, if he's a younger leader, if that's where you put your money at, it would be hard. I would shed a tear to lose Bobby Wagner, but I'm very much intrigued by Nick Bolton. Here's an old name out here as a linebacker. I don't know how much he's got in the take, but Shaq Thompson, dude has been involved in nothing but losses here in Carolina. Can we give him some wins on a team to come in as a rotational piece and help out a little bit? I don't know.
Oh man, yeah. But so, like I was saying, after signing our guy, this is also a place, going back to the linebacker, where I am looking at maybe making that big move. You're talking about Bolton. I was talking about Mac. Maybe making that move to get into Judah. Maybe this is where I'm really, if I make a move outside, I'll get number one, Bobby. If I make a move outside and get another big guy to pair with him or somebody to come in house, depending, this is where I would do it. Other than that, I'm not really looking at some of these other guys, Kazir White and Devondre Campbell. I'm not really looking at, guys that might want to make a couple extra dollars or something like that. I like the Shaq Thompson thing, Willie Gay, Eric Kendricks, like a lot of these guys I like here and there, but I'm set with where we have. So I'm really trying to build on what we had. Like if we can bring in another big name dude, okay, let's have the best linebacker core in the league. That's fine. But if we're going to just re-sign Wagner, stick with Luvu like this, let's get a guy that we can draft. Let's get a guy that maybe was drafted last year, like you're talking about Peyton Wilson, and see if we can bring him in and have him learn and work in the system.
Right.
This is the place where I would move up, but not. Go ahead.
And I'm not going after Zach Bond in big money towards him. I think he's a great player in Philly. I don't know. No,
that sounds like a Raiders move. Let's sign the last year's Super Bowl MVP, our Super Bowl stud.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a position you started with that we've got a free agent to sign or a player that's a free agent. So let's kind of solidify this. What are you doing at safety?
I honestly was happy with our safety play. I really didn't want to go much farther than that. I mean, there's a couple people that might potentially be available, like a Justin Simmons or Xavier Woods. I've always liked him.
Let me back up because Chin is a free agent, so we got to make a decision on him.
Well, and that's where. So I'm kind of in the middle on Chin. I mean, obviously it's been up and down. In the beginning of the year, a lot of people were, he wasn't doing well. He got better towards the end. I think he fits well with what we're doing. But to the point of, you and Ab, I think we were talking about, can we get better at this position? Can we do that? And I'm looking around, and there's always been guys. I've talked to you about Xavier Woods year after year. I mean, there's been guys that are out there. But does it make us better? And what is it going to take for, if they come in-house, are they going to have to then learn the system? I think back to the Freaky Friday I did, ladies and gentlemen, on Fans First Sports Network, where I talked about Ryan Clark and how we had Ryan, and he had him in that year with him and Sean Taylor, and then unfortunately Sean had met his demise, and then Ryan was there, but Washington wanted to go elsewhere. We got Adam Archuleta, thinking that he was going to be great, but he didn't fit in the system that we were running. We let Ryan go. Ryan has Super Bowls in Pittsburgh. Adam Archuleta doesn't even play a full 16 games and then ends up leaving that next year. So it has to fit what we're doing. Jeremy Chin has been able to play, and it seems like he's gotten better in the system that we're running. So my first thought would be to talk to him and try to see what we're getting in-house, just because when I look at some of these players, a Justin Reed, a Justin Simmons, maybe they see something different and they have their eyes on somebody, but this is a place where I would first go in to have conversations with Chin and try to re-sign him. And if we don't, let's see how it plays out. But I might even look in the draft for this one. I got a couple guys maybe that I can see coming in, but I just don't want to spend the big money right here, because I kind of like where we are at safety, because we're still young, we're working together, and I want those guys all to kind of mold together.
What are you, if you're keeping Chin, what are you keeping? So he signed a 1-year deal. What do you think are you offering him?
See, not even that much. That I don't.
So you're okay with if he gets bigger money elsewhere?
Bigger money elsewhere? Yeah, I don't. I was never really sold on Chin. I mean, I think he's improved throughout the season, but he's a take it or leave it guy for me. Like I don't know. I don't know. I'm not trying to give him 7, 8, 9 million. I'm not trying to put him up that high. But
he made $5 million this year, so that's not too much of a step up.
Oh, but if you want to keep him in house, is he worth staying? Is this the guy that you? I mean, what do you think? Would you re-sign and keep him in, or would you take your chances elsewhere?
Yeah, no, I think he's a candidate to get a multi-year deal the way Frankie Luvu did, in a similar fashion there of like a 3-year, like you said, maybe $9 million a year, an upgrade from what he was making. I think he very much improved as the season went along. I do think there are other guys out there like the dude from the Vegas, Trayvon Morig, who dropped Taylor Heineke's pass in his breadbasket. I've always liked Andre Cisco of Jacksonville and Javon. Where is he at? Javon Holland of Miami, but they played the same position as our future Pro Bowler Quan Martin, so that's not going to help.
Future Pro Bowler.
I do have an interest in the dude from San Francisco, Hufanaga, just because, he's tough out there, but I think you don't getting somebody else other than Chin, I think is going to cost more. Whereas I think Chin may say, hey, you know what? I really started to play well towards the end of this. I will take a little bit less to stay here because in this system, he signed with us because he was like, Dan Quinn's got a good defense. I want to play for that. And I think there's an option for us to do that similar. So I'm kind of with you where I'm good keeping him. I don't want to spend a whole lot of money, but I think Chin is the safety I'd want to keep. Yeah. Let me ask you this. You said you got a couple guys in the draft. Who are you talking about here? Are you you're not talking about using the first round pick from the dude from South Carolina, are you?
No. It would be somewhere down the line. And again, some of these guys that I'm thinking, who knows? Again, it really has to do with what these guys are prioritizing. And this position for me, I've never. I love where we are at this position with Quan and with Jeremy Chin. That's why I would want us to go get him. But again, I'm not trying to get him signed I don't want to break the bank to sign this guy for multi years. I liked what he did throughout the season, but he still also struggled at times. So yes, that the $9 million multiple year, whatever. Yeah. Let's do that. Let's bring him in and stay for that. But at the same time, I was out on this guy from Illinois. What's his name? Quan Martin. Until somebody told me that he's going to have a meteoric rise and he has a pick six in the championship in a divisional game. So I was wrong. I'm not opposed to saying I was wrong. So if we can get a guy in house, I'm good with that. But yeah, no, I that's not somewhere where I want to spend up for. And I just like the mesh and the gel that we have there with those guys have played together and kind of having that culture, that same thing in house. So if we can just go ahead and solidify this deal and we're good. It's on the books. We can move on. I'm good with that. But I do want us to look in the draft, not high, not first round type thing. But I do want us to look in the draft at some point and see what can we do. And the other part is we don't know what Hampton's going to do. You know what I mean? We don't know. You talked about that being somebody that's a project. Wait, what if him and McCaffrey are two guys that have year two explosions? You know what I mean? The first year they had a slump, and the second year they come out. So a lot of stuff is speculation and, wait and see. But if we can get Chin, let's just re-sign him, keep him in-house, and let's just build around that.
Right. I'm with you.
Okay. So is there any places you're solely looking in the draft or free agency?
Yeah, I'm looking in the draft at our next running back. Absolutely draft only for me. Tight end, draft only. Yep. And I think there's a lot of intriguing guys out there to where it's exciting and in the second round for a running back potentially. Maybe in the third round for a tight end potentially. It's kind of maybe a little early for a luxury pick there. I think I would like to bring some guys in for the draft in those positions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Maybe second round draft, maybe a Harold Fanning Jr. out of Bowling Green led the country and led all tight ends at I believe receptions and touchdowns, I think, or yards.
You would want a tight end over like a Travion Henderson or a Omarion Hampton.
Well, no. First and foremost, Marion Hampton, we're going to get with our first pick overall. I don't know if you saw, but Washington's going North Carolina first pick overall. So we're definitely doing that. And I'm with you 100% about getting him right. If we could get an Marion Hampton, which I don't think as much of a stretch because figuring out where running backs go and how they're pretty much probably going to drop till later. And if we can keep him under wraps, and I'm glad he's not on a lot of people's radar. If we can get an Marion Hampton.
I think he's on the radar. I don't
He's
think
starting to show
sliding
up.
down.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen some people say that he's absolute gem, but I've also heard other people talking Ashton Genty and Travion Henderson and all these other guys. And I'm like, that's good. Yeah, go ahead. Keep talking about those guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I would 100% go Marion Hampton there. And at tight end, I would definitely look in the draft for it. You know, another place I'm really eager to look in the draft, and I really want to look in the draft, special teams. I want us to get a quality kicker. I mean, bring a couple guys in-house. Let's try them out, and let's get a quality kicker that we can work with throughout our time here, okay? And let's keep him, even if he might miss a couple field goals, a la when we had David Akers, and he missed a couple field goals, and then he immediately
shout out
got
Throwback Thursday.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to shout them all out then. But, yeah, no, that's somewhere where, I mean, I want us to resign Tress, keep him in house, obviously, our MVP, our GOAT. But I want kicker. I want that to be somewhere where we can't go through 6 kickers again this year. And now that my old GOAT, Justin Tucker, looks like he's not going to be available any longer, can't go in that direction. So I want a kicker.
I've got two kickers. I know I'm with you. I actually want us to go through the draft for kicker. Ryan Fitzgerald of Florida State. He hit on all 5 of his attempts over 50 yards, 13 of 13 on the season. The other guy, this is what I had seen, Caden Davis of Ole Miss, 24 of 29 on field goals, along with 57. He was 8 of 9 in the 40-yard range, 2 of 4, 50-plus. He's got a little bit of a leg. But, yeah, I'm with you. Like, I think it's Seibert and Gonzalez, like, there's a little bit of an issue with the lack of leg strength there.
Yes.
In today's NFL, you got to be able to kick a 55-yarder.
God, exactly.
If we have a chance of kicking a 55-yarder to win the game, you got to be able to do it.
Right.
And neither one of those guys can do it.
Right. Either that or bring back Joey Sly and just have him there to kick 50-plus yard field goals because we know he can do that. I mean, look, specialist. You need specialists. It's special teams, isn't it? You know?
Seibert kicks from 45 in. Sly kicks from 45 out, 46 out.
Hey, let's go. He wanted small contract to get him in there. I love it.
Right.
A couple other places we talked about in the draft, wide receiver. Definitely looking there to potentially not first. I mean, depending on who falls to us, we'll see. I think the luxury that we have right now is that we do have a little bit more open as far as what we choose in the draft. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, I got nothing.
Okay. And then D-line, I think that's somewhere that I'm looking at in the draft. And like I told you before, linebacker. That's somewhere where I want to get somebody that's going to come in.
Yes.
First, we got to get Wagner. Get these guys in, and let's get some guys to learn under them. What other places in the draft are you looking?
All the positions you said. I think the things we got to think about with the draft, and I'm going to say this later as we get closer to the draft and after free agency happens, is sometimes you also have to play based on what the draft gives you. And this year, the draft is very strong at tight end. So if we're worried about replacing a guy like Zach Ertz, well, then maybe we need to be getting someone earlier than you really, really need it to replace that guy. So there's a running back. This may not be the draft where you wait until the 4th and 5th round to get your Tyler Algier type guy who can come in and play. Is you go in the 2nd round because you've got guys like Hampton, like Henderson, like Judkins. That, like Caleb Johnson, who can be big time players where it's worth going up for these guys. So that's kind of where I'm at, where it also depends on what the where's the draft strong.
Right. And that's what I'm intrigued to see. But again, a lot of this we have to see what happens in free agency. A lot like what you were talking about. Let's see what the draft, where we're at that specific spot. And we got the combines here, let's see who rises up, who falls in the combine, who's really excel and shine a light on. There might be guys that we don't even know that are coming up in the draft that might show out, and all of a sudden it's like, ooh, I like that guy, or one of the things that I've noticed is it's not always just about the play when it comes to the combine. That interview that a lot of these guys do with the teams makes a big difference on where these teams go. You know,
Yes.
if that guy is able to have a great interview and say the right things and know the playbook, know the system and everything. One of the things that I loved about Jaden last year is they said as soon as he got on the plane after getting drafted, he's in the playbook. He's studying that thing back and forward because he knows it's full time. This as soon it starts as soon as you're here and you keep it moving. And we saw what happened as a result of that. So that's something that that I'm interested in seeing what happens in the combine, but how some of these guys are when they're in these meetings and they're talking to these guys and seeing kind of the direction, because character is something that seems to be on a pedestal in Washington right now.
Yes.
Character and culture. And I absolutely love that because that's what is needed. That's what we were missing for all of those years. Yes. So I'm eager to see how this whole free agency and draft and all that stuff play out, man, because a lot of kind of what we're thinking now could totally be thrown out the window in a month or two.
Yeah. When we go through free agency, what we're looking at, that really is going to set the tone for the draft. I still think we're going to go best player available at times. Like there's going to be a pick or two that we're like, what? We got that guy? Right. Did we need to do that? But it is going to change based on whatever we do in free agency,
Mm-hmm. Do you I know this might be sacrilegious to some. Do you look anywhere at any point for any maybe backup help at quarterback?
Yeah, sure. 6th, 7th round, something like that. If the guys are always going to fall at quarterback, sure. Because I think the idea is, we'll find out what happens with Mariota. Is there an opportunity for him to be a bridge starter someplace, or does he come back here? And obviously that deals with it a lot. I'm hoping if Mariota is here, because I'm looking at the list of quarterbacks. I mean, the only other quarterback this is kind of crazy, that I would bring in as a backup to Jaden Daniels, I'd bring in Daniel Jones. Yeah, you can make that face. It's okay.
I know.
But look at kind of how he played in New York. Does this not kind of seem like the offense that he could operate?
Yeah. That's why I made that face, because it's like, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I just feel so weird.
Is he that much different than Mariota?
No, and he's younger.
I don't know if he is.
No.
I know.
I'm surprised. You did. You're not going to go after your boy? You're not going to go after Tyler Heineke?
I've got a stronger arm than Heineke. No, I don't. No. Although that would be crazy. That'd be awesome. Don't get me so excited again like that. But I think, you hope that Sam Hartman can be QB3, but if somebody in the draft, drops and it's just like a Sam Hartman didn't get drafted, bring him in to compete.
Let me ask you this: what if we don't go? If Mariota does not re-sign, do you potentially bring in a Justin Fields to be backup?
I don't think he'd sign here. Sure, yes, I could. Yes, sure, as the backup. Yeah. But there'd be an understanding that there's zero chance for you to play, barring injury.
Well, and that's the other thing, because where we would stay fairly similar with the mobility, there would be a definite drop off in passing. And I mean, and I've been one of his more staunch supporters, and I'm like, nah, bro, it ain't happening. So that's where I'm kind of like, but this is all in the mindset of let's get guys that are similar skill sets to Jaden, and that's because that's what we think that they did.
But Trey Lance,
what are your thoughts on him? I've always been out on him. I didn't like him coming out of school.
I know.
Yeah,
I didn't see. Now it was his only start or playing time in the game, but he had a chance to beat us in that game, and he missed some guys who were wide open. So
yeah,
I was like,
I've never been on board with him. So
get the guy who always beats us.
Coop. Look, that's a long list, Will. If we're talking about the guys that always beat us.
It is.
What about
Jameis Winston, or Jacoby Brissett as guys who can play that Mariota role? I'm so out.
Honestly,
on Jameis.
I would not be opposed to not Jameis.
Jacoby
Brissett. I wouldn't be opposed to that because what you're bringing is the same mindset, the same veteran mentality. He can work with Jaden. So, I mean, we saw how amazing he did last year when he had the great Sam Howell and how he worked well with him. I mean, that guy was amazing last year. Just
2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago? God.
It was. How pissed off do you think Jacoby Brissett was when he signed with Washington with the chance to compete for a starter? Then Ron names Sam Howell the starter, and he's sitting here going, "This guy sucks, and I can do so much better." And then when he comes in towards those last 3-4 games, the offense moves, and he's probably like, "I could have told you all. I could have told you I was going to do this, right? I could have won you 7 games, guys."
I would have been fine if they would have sat my guy Sam as backup and then let Jacoby be the starter, okay? And then if they would have taken him out, I just felt like my guy was set up from the beginning. From the start, they set my guy up. But it's all good.
They set him up when they signed Eric Bieniemy as offensive coordinator, unfortunately. Hindsight, looking back, that guy had no interest in blocking schemes for the quarterback. Almost worse than Steve Spurrier.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough. Man. Oh, my goodness gracious. All right, Will.
We went way further longer than we were supposed to.
We really did.
We weren't supposed to get into the draft talk at all.
That's how this happens when we're talking off season. Let's go. Oh, my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you guys. A few of you have stuck with us over this 2-hour stretch, talking about the draft, talking about the season, where we're going from here, talking about free agency. Again, all of this speculation, a lot of this stuff will switch, will change depending on who gets re-signed, who gets franchise tagged, what players decide to retire, X, Y, and Z. There's so many new things out there that we'll see. Stay tuned because we have so much coming, but not just here on YouTube. Will, where else can they find us?
Yeah, on Twitter X at Wash FB Weekly is where we will post clips. We will post the segments here for you to see us. But on Spotify and Apple at Washington Football Weekly, we will post the full shows like we just did here. We will clip up some of the shows for certain segments. Sean does some great jobs with Throwback Thursdays and Freaky Fridays, where he talks about former players to reminisce about, and maybe folks we shouldn't have brought in or let go that we shouldn't have. Antonio Pierce, that'd be a great one to talk about at some point. But yeah, so there's additional content on Apple and Spotify. If you follow us there, you'll be able to see that. And we appreciate you tuning in for this.
Oh yeah. And listen, for those of you that are looking for the latest episode of Throwback Thursday, it is coming up, and I want you to remember the name Joe Lavender, ladies and gentlemen.
Never heard of
Joe Lavender, guy's a Super Bowl champion. That's all you need to know. But he will be on Throwback Thursday this week. But look, we got to go ahead and get out of here now that we've taken up 2 hours of your life. Hopefully it was good for you. But for my guy, South Carolina's finest, Will Kramer, it's your boy, Sean Spencer. We will be back with you this off season. Stay tuned. There's a lot of news and notes coming out, and we'll be here with you for all of it. But we got to head out. So as we always do, left hand up. We'll see you on the flip side.
Gibbs, you got a good chance. Let me tell you something about some good fans. Back in the day, RFK was our palace. If you don't know, you need to ask about us. Think we're gonna lose? Well, I can't believe you doubt us. Had the whole crowd screaming out, "We want talent!" Those haters can't stand us. Left hand up. Who are we? Commanders. We fight for RDC. Who are we? The Commanders. Commanders.